What's up? We are live. We are live. Don't know how many people are going to be here because when daylight savings changes, Arizona stays the same. We're the only state that does that. So I know it affects some things. And I'm going to play around and figure out what times work best for the community that I'm serving. But with that being said, what I wanted to do today was go over a few exercises that you can do with the power of six to help you on your journey, help you move along on yours. And these exercises are exercises that I've personally done myself on my journey to get me to where I want to go. And so for the power of six, the first principle focusing on confidence, clarity, and commitment. I got to get clear on what I'm doing before I do anything. So I have to know, what am I doing and why am I doing it? If I don't know those pieces, things get very difficult very quickly. And so what I do for clarity is ask myself, why is this important to me? And when I figure out why it's important to me, I ask myself, why is that important to me? And I'll go deeper and deeper and deeper until I get a full understanding of why this is something I really want to do and why it's something I really want to accomplish. I will use my wrestling as an example. Why I wanted to do athletics was I was already in the process of getting in shape and I wanted to stay in shape. And so I chose athletics for that very reason. Why I wanted to stay in shape, I felt a lot more energy when I was in shape. I looked better when I was in shape. And I just felt better when I was in shape. And so I held on to all of those pieces to being reasons why I did what I did. For commitment, now my commitment ability has gotten better and better as I've gone through my journey because I've been through so many cycles of life. Couple things with commitment. So one commitment I use accountability partners. They make the journey a heck of a lot easier. With that being said, don't use your accountability partner as your excuse to fall off, because accountability partners, just like life, they fall off sometimes, and that's okay. Don't use that as an excuse for you not to do what you need to do. The other piece, signing a contract to yourself and showing people, because it's easy to sign a contract to yourself that you're not showing anybody. But if you sign a contract and other people get to see the contract, things change quite a bit. And so that's the first principle. The exercises are rather simple. They're rather simple. They're the easiest parts of the process. Clarity, confidence, and commitment. What's up, Gemma? Welcome. I appreciate you showing up. And so the second one is having a plan. I know this has really been an effective way for me to plan is by taking small bite-sized chunks. I don't remember who says this, but they say you don't eat the elephant whole, you eat it one bite at a time. And I'm a big believer in that. I create small plans because small plans get bigger and better as you go through the process. But if you make it too big too early, it can be quite intimidating. It kind of makes me think of, you ever have a sink full of dishes, dirty dishes, and you're like, crap, how did that become what it became? And deep down inside, you know what happened. And you're like, all right, I'm going to clean all these dishes. And you're like, you just don't clean it. And day after day after day, you're like, I need to get to these dishes. And if finally you eventually get there. Well, with the plan, it's clean 2 dishes and then clean 3 dishes and then stay at that consistent pace until you ease into it. And what's really cool about that, when you start doing it that way, you create a pattern and a habit for yourself so that it never gets as bad as it did before, because you'll always remember that. You'll keep that in your back pocket. So keep your plan super simple. What are 2 things you can do or 3 things you can do to move yourself forward on your goal? It can even be 1 thing you need to do to move yourself forward on your goal. And don't stop doing that 1 thing. And file it, condition it, stay consistent, and then you move on to the next piece after you've gotten the consistency on that one piece. The same thing as brushing our teeth. They say you wouldn't brush your teeth once every week. You would brush it 2 to 3 times a day. With that said, our parents have conditioned us into that, though. That's something that is conditioned into us. And just as things can be conditioned into us, other things can be conditioned into us. And it's a process, just like anything else. Know the first principle, the why behind why you're doing it, and then just start filing away and staying consistent. And also there's the smart piece of it, which is specific, measurable. Is it obtainable? Is it relevant to you? Is it important in some way? And what is the timeline you're looking to do it in? So I always do a SMART plan, and I always keep my plan super, super simple. For the third piece, the passionate action, like I said, passionate action usually becomes quite easy when you get the first and the second principle on par. If you're not passionately acting, you probably are missing something in step 1 or step 2, because you should feel so good to have the blueprint in place and to be confident on why you're doing it, have clarity on why you're doing it, and committed to it. The passion should just be there. It's the process that falls in place. It falls in place. And if the passion's not there, that's your mind's way of saying we may need to change something, like something needs to change. Now, with that being said, if it's something that's brand new or completely different for you, then I could understand that piece. And if it is brand new, be a visionary and see yourself at the end goal. When you can see the end goal, some of those minute things that you might not like to do become a heck of a lot easier. I'll give you an example. Through my fighting career, I did not like running up hills. That was not one of the most fun things for me to do. But I did like getting my hand raised, and I did like to win. And so my desire to win gave me the desire to do things that I didn't want to do passionately. Because if you're half-assing running up the hill, you're not really doing any good for you or your team or the competition you're getting ready to get into. So if you are having trouble with passion and action, and you go through principle 1 and principle 2, visualize what you'll be, where you'll be, how you'll feel, all of those things. And that's going to keep you passionate in the process, no matter what you're doing or what you're acting on. Let's see. Yes, absolutely. You have to be determined. If you're determined in what you're going after, it's going to feed that passion. It's always going to feed that passion. The fourth step, unshakable faith. Now, this is where it can get tricky for people, because when you are going through your process and you are passionately acting and you're doing the exercises, you've done the exercises, this is when we get into the deeper exercises. Okay, so principle 1, you're writing it down, you're figuring it out, you're putting it together. Principle 2, you have your plan in place. You have everything in order. And principle 3, you're taking your action, right? You're putting it together. You're implementing. Principle 4, unshakable faith. This is when things get hard. This is when things get tough. I got an exercise for everybody. So when things get hard and things get tough, it can really mess with our central nervous system, can make it go haywire. When we're feeling extremely uncomfortable, that's when things get hard, but we can make it easier. So here's an exercise that I would like you to try when you're starting to feel that anxiety come up. It's 2 breaths out, 1 breath in. So you're going to do 2 exhales, 1 inhale. It looks like this. And you do that for like 5 to 10 times. Do that as many times as you need to. And try it when you're stressed out. What it does, it really calms that nervous system down, and it blows some of that CO2 out. And there's different exercises you can do. I'm just going to go over one today to really get your faith in place. When you're feeling calm, you feel there's possibility. That's the most important piece. If you're feeling anxious and freaked out and overwhelmed, it's too much pressure, and you're probably going to start making mistakes, and you're going to make them quickly. So focus on that unshakable faith, practice that unshakable faith, practice that breathing technique, see how it shows up for you. The fifth is know what you can control, know what you can't control, and the difference between the two. And I think it was Ben Franklin who would ask himself why he wanted to do something, and he would look at the pros and start check marking the pros on that thing, and he would look at the cons and start check marking the cons, and he would measure the pros with the cons, and then he would take an action. This can often be hard for people to do because as you get further in your journey, you get more and more difficult situations and difficult questions are placed upon you. And so you have to be an action taker. If you don't take any action, that's an action. That's an inaction, and inaction tends to get us in trouble. And inaction can be as simple as, if I'm asking people to do something for me and they don't have the time to do it, and they find a way to make the time, they are taking away from their time from creating the reality they want to create. And if they do that, everything's going haywire, and it can be very frustrating for them. They have no one else to blame but themselves, though. But if you practice certain pieces, if you put certain practices in place, then you will say yes to what you want to say yes to, and no to what you don't want to say, what you don't want to do, right? Or you don't have the time to do. So check mark those boxes, check mark your pros, your cons, and make a decision from there. Take an action. I will say this, just like in anything, the more you do it, the easier it becomes. So if you're constantly doing your pro and con checklists, as you do it more and more and more, you won't even need to do it pen to paper. You can just do it in your head because you've practiced it so much. You just go through your check marks and you know what works for you and you know what doesn't. And you just get rapid fire with it. That's reminded me of my journey. Like, I used to look at the back of all of the boxes when I was in the process of losing weight, looking at the nutrition facts, looking at the calorie count, looking at what it had and what it didn't have in it, looking at what was bad in it and what was really good in it. And I've done it for so long, most things I don't have to look at the boxes anymore. Now, if it's something new or foreign, yeah, I'm going to look at the box. But other than that, I know what I know because I've practiced it enough. And so that's another important piece. Continue to practice and file down and figure out where you want to go on your journey. And the sixth piece is greatness within. And greatness within is really just the glue that holds everything else in place. When you're standing on greatness, you can look through all 5 of the other principles and say, where am I showing up and where am I not showing up through these foundations? And how am I showing up, and am I showing up correctly for me to get to where I want to go? Greatness can go as deep as you want it to go. What do you want that's better in your life? Where do you want to go? What problems do you want to solve? Do you want better relationships? Do you want your health to be better? Do you want your wealth to be on par? Do you want more entertainment in your life? Do you want all 4? I'm a component of wanting all 4. And so that's why I'm consistently practicing through my cycle and getting better through my cycle and getting better at each one consistently. So I hope those exercises help you through. I'll go through them real quick one more time, but it's principle 1. And that's the thing, like the exercises are simple, but they're not easy. At first, I always say at first they're not, because if you practice them enough, they get easy. Like these exercises are second nature to me because I've done them for so long. So it's just like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. But first, get really clear on what you want, really clear on it. Why? And then make yourself accountable, whether that's accountability partner, whether that's signing something to yourself and you're showing it to other people, whatever it needs to be. Get yourself committed. We're going to play with confidence later on, but I'm not going to do it for this one. I'm just going to go through this process. Number 2, have a plan, a system in place. Keep it super simple, super simple. We all are spinning plates. We're all trying to figure it out. We're all trying to put new things in order. And they always say, like, knowledge is knowing the steps. Wisdom is knowing the order in those steps. And so if we're measuring a bunch of things all at once, we don't know what's changing what. If we keep it super simple and just measure one thing and change one thing, we know whether it's working or not because we're measuring it. And so we can say, like, okay, I wanted my cash flow to come up and it's not going anywhere. And I've been doing this thing and I've been doing more of this thing and it's still not going anywhere. So either I try something different, or I'm still not doing enough of this thing, or I need to replace this thing altogether. And so figure that piece out. The passionate action. If you're not acting with passion, figure out why. Figure out why. Is there something off with the first principle? Is there something off with the second principle? What is going on with those two principles? Is there something off with your why behind your why behind your why? And usually that's what it is. That's what keeps us from acting in the way that we need to act. And number 4, breathing exercise. Just a simple breathing exercise. Because the first time you run your race, the first time you're doing something new or different, it's a process and there's going to be challenges there. But after the first time, it gets easier. And that's with anything. Like the first time I got on video, it was difficult. The first time I had my first fight, it was difficult. The first time I did a public speech, it was difficult. All of those things were difficult for me. But I just kept doing it and I kept getting better at it. And I kept using the exercises that I needed to use to calm me down. I didn't have this exercise earlier on in my journey. I actually did something completely different, which was focus specifically on how I would breathe. I would slow my breathing down. So I would breathe in slowly and I would breathe out slowly. I started using this one. It was, I don't even remember the name of the doctor, but he had presented this breathing exercise and I gave it a try and I'm like, wow, that works rather quickly. And so in life, I'm looking to get things done quickly because life moves fast. It just does. Even when we're not realizing that it's moving fast, it's moving fast. It's staying on top of us and we're either adapting or we're falling prey to life. I don't want to do that. And I don't want you to do that either. I want you to be able to adapt and be ready to change in whatever you need to change in consistently and quickly. And the 5th, with that responsibility, check mark those boxes, check mark your pros and your cons and say, is there more pros here? Is there more cons here? Super simple. Super simple. Go through your process though. And the greatness within. The greatness is you have it so foundated that you can just go through. You can go through rapidly. So professional fighting is quick. It's fast. Everything's moving so quick. The fists are moving fast. The legs are moving fast and people are trying to knock you out. And if you can move quick, if you can adjust, that's what greatness really is. Greatness is just being able to adjust on the fly. You look at Michael Jordan and Michael Jordan could play with the flu, feeling like crap. And he didn't do it by himself. He did it with his team. He got better and better as he went through his journey because his whole thing was, oh crap, I can't do this all by myself. So he got the team on board. He gelled the team together and he moved at a pace other people couldn't keep up with. That's all greatness within is you move so rapidly through the foundation that people just can't keep up with your pace. They can't keep up with your speed. They can't keep up with who you are. You play at a different level. And I know everyone wants to play at a different level. And if they're saying they don't want to play at a different level, I know they're lying to themselves deep down inside. And that's okay because we're all conditioned differently. But people like playing at a different level. I've never seen anyone say like, no, I like to lose all the time. I like to, it's just how you play the game and I like to lose. I think it's important how you play the game. I think that's huge. I'm big on integrity, but I'm also big on, I like to win. I like to win at the game of life. And I like to practice what I preach and I do it consistently. And I show up as the best that I can. Jimma, appreciate you coming through. How am I? I am doing very well, superstar. I apologize for not speaking to you right away. I know who I am. And if I don't get through it, I will just start talking with you and I'll completely miss what I was talking about. That's the other thing. I'm super, super focused. So either I'm going to focus on one thing or I'm going to focus on the other. So I stay very present, and that's a gift and a curse. It's about planning for me. It's being an advocate. Yes, I love it. I love it. I love what you stand for. And I love how you keep moving, and you've been extremely consistent. So respect and love to that. Keep being a superstar in that piece. And the power of being able to pivot. Good stuff. Yeah, Kendall. Yeah, thank you. I'm glad that you liked it. And that's what it's about. When we can pivot, things get a heck of a lot easier. And we remember, I always say it's remembering who you are. We're all capable of pivoting. What's cool is we all have our special way of pivoting. Everybody has their own unique way of doing things. And it showed up for me as a personal trainer specifically because I worked with so many different people that I had to adjust to who their personality was. And the more I adjusted to it, the easier it became for me and the easier it became for them. So it made a win-win. And I'm seeing entrepreneurship as much of the same thing. We all have our own way of doing things. So I just want people to show up as their best for what they are, what they're conditioned to be. And now there is pieces where sometimes we have to drop certain things off and add different skill sets, because we'll practice a skill set that has worked for us in the past, but is no longer like it no longer plays into the new place we want to go to. And the cool thing is when I can explain it in a way where it makes sense to them, they're way more likely to just let it go. Like it feels easy to let go. And they're like, okay, that makes sense. So Kendall, thank you for your support. And I love the pivot. It's all about the pivot. So I hope you all have an amazing day. And I will talk to you all later. Thank you for stopping by. And I appreciate your support as always. And you have an amazing, amazing day. Take care.